and Rob McGregor welcome you to a place where all kinds of phenomena flourish. Voices whisper ancient secrets, signs and symbols are abundant. UFOs, ETs, ghosts, and even the dead move about freely. Here we meet authors, researchers, and investigators of the mysterious, the strange, and of the inexplicable anomalies that surround us. Step out of the everyday world and take a journey into the mystical underground.
It's important to hit that button first. And now we'll start in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Mystical Underground. Thank you for joining us. This is Trish McGregor and
Rob McGregor.
And our producer and tech magician, John Posey. He's the disembodied voice. You can go to themysticalunderground.com where we make regular blog posts and where you can find out about our books. Among them are Phenomena, Harnessing Your Psychic Abilities, The Secrets of Spirit Communication, Sensing the Future, and Aliens in the Backyard. Our latest book is called Mind-Blowing Synchronicities, the latest science, stories, and research. Trish's most recent novel is White Crows, and Rob's is called Tulpas. If you're watching us on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you would take a second to click the like, subscribe, and notification buttons so you would never miss an episode. If you prefer to listen to the show, it's available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe there. If you'd like to know what's going on for you astrologically, get in touch with me, Trish, through our YouTube channel or through the contact form on themysticalunderground.com.
Okay, our guest today is Narinder Sheena, who is an empath and a chronic pain and mindset coach. She is a passionate advocate for individuals suffering from chronic pain, offering coaching support to those who feel anxious, frustrated, and fearful by their ongoing pain. Narinder has authored a book called From Pain to Power. It's about her journey out of chronic pain, but mostly about what people can do to heal themselves. In her previous career, Narinder was a personal injury lawyer, but now focuses on helping others achieve a pain-free life through awareness and education. She lives in Bromsgrove, England, with her husband and 2 young children, ages 8 and 5. I met Narinder when she approached me on a British ghostwriting site earlier this year and asked if I would be interested in editing her book. I've done quite a few of these projects, and this was the first time I read a book and told the author that she didn't need my help. The book was well written, and there was very little I could do to improve it. But I thought the book was interesting, so I invited her to our podcast, and here she is. Welcome, Narinder.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
What time is it in the UK?
It's 6 p.m.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so at least it's a decent hour.
Yeah.
And real quick, what part of England are you in? Where are you located?
So it's Bromsgrove, Worcestershire.
Okay, so that's geographically challenged. Yeah.
Near Birmingham.
Birmingham? Okay.
Oh, all right.
Near there.
Okay, yeah. So please tell us about your journey. Why did you leave your career as a lawyer to work with people who have chronic pain?
Yeah, I mean, I was a lawyer for 15 years. And I remember that I did coaching back in 2014, 15. And it was something I was really passionate about. And in my career, I used to do a lot of strategy work, operations. And I realized it's people that I needed to serve, not the numbers. And I used to get, my values were getting triggered. And I used to feel frustrated that, you know, when you walk in life in a corporate world where you feel hollow inside. So I'd been feeling that for a number of years. And I remember there was a point in my life where just before COVID, I had my second child. And I thought, I wonder what's going to give for me to be able to transition my career. And strangely enough, it was chronic pain. That was the calling for me. And I call it my gift.
It was your own chronic pain?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think people don't realize that that frustration within ourselves builds up over years. I probably had that chronic stress and frustration, but did nothing with it because I was afraid of taking that leap that I really wanted to help people, but I didn't know how.
Yeah. So you write at that one point you were in so much pain, it was a challenge for you to just brush your teeth. And you also had two young children to care for. How did you do it?
God.
It was such a struggle. I was crying my eyes out because I had never felt pain like that. Now, having children, you'd think that's the worst pain, but it wasn't. This pain, it's like a nasty stabbing pain, and it never gave, it's 24/7.
Where was it? In your back?
In my back. So weirdly, in 2020, just after lockdown, I got out of bed and I had a niggle in my right ankle. That's all it was. No injury, no accident. And I couldn't shake it off for weeks. And my husband went, "Why don't you go to the doctors?" And I thought, why not? So I went to the doctors and he didn't ask me how I was. He just said, "Oh, you might have a herniated disc. Try and walk it off and I'll refer you for physiotherapy." And I thought, okay, didn't think anything of it. Couldn't walk it off or shake it off. And then I had physiotherapy over Zoom. Can you imagine that lack of physical contact? And she looked at me and she's like, "You're going to need to do some exercises with a tennis ball." And I went, okay. And the pain had exacerbated to a level I hadn't realized. And I was really fearful. And that's when I started getting anxious, thinking, what's wrong with me? And over the duration of sessions, she said the word surgery. And I thought, me? Surgery? Why? What's happened? And basically, I started desperately seeking a solution. Everything was closed. I didn't know what was happening. All I knew was I was deteriorating. The pain was unbearable. And so I started Googling, like you do, healing back pain. And I came across a physician, Dr. Sarno, an amazing man. And I credit a lot to him because I got his book. And it talked about people pleasers, people who are nice, who are subconsciously angry. And I recognized myself in that moment thinking, that's me. I'm that person that needs to recognize something's happened in my life. And then from there, I met a wonderful physiotherapist in the UK who does mind-body work, Georgie Oldfield. And I had a call with her and she said, "Narinder, you'll recover." And it was the first time I'd heard the words, "you'll recover." I thought, what does she know that I don't? Everybody was saying, be careful, do not walk or jog for too long. And she said, it's just stress-induced. And I thought, what's this all about? And that's when my journey started, looking at what can I do for myself to heal.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about Dr. Sarno? When did he write that book? It was quite a while ago, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a very old book. I don't remember the year he wrote it, but all I remember is thinking, wow, why aren't people talking about this book?
But he was dismissed by the mainstream
a lot of them are.
Medicine.
And what I didn't understand, he was a man before his time. And we're all talking about those things today. What he had emphasized, that actually it wasn't the physical therapy. It was just asking, how are you? What's been happening in your life? Because he found patients who came to see him were in such a debilitated state. But when they left his clinic, they were a bit better. They could walk a little bit and he hadn't touched them. And I thought how fascinating the mind is, that we should just talk things out and we just need to deeply listen. And I think this is why this work is so important, and to advocate that is to make people aware that actually there are tools out there that are simple and free, but we need to recognize that rather than go around the houses with medical treatments. Because I was going to physiotherapy, having chiropractic treatment, and the real healing came when I let go of those things and started working on my inner self. That's when the real work began.
Well,
So are you totally pain-free now?
Yeah, I mean, there's times when I get a bit of stiffness or I can get a migraine, but I know what that's due to, and
Uh-huh.
I don't feel fearful. I know I feel safe in the sensations and why it's happened, so I don't
Wow.
fear it.
yeah.
So it's
Now,
that mind-body connection that's so
yeah.
vital.
It's amazing.
Huh.
Yeah, but I think most people who would encounter pain like you had in your back or wherever would turn to pain pills, opioids, or did you try that? Did you go through that phase?
I was so tempted. I took a strong bout of ibuprofen, but I ordered painkillers, and I remember Georgie saying to me, she goes, "You can take these painkillers, but they're not going to work long term. They're a short term fix." And I thought to myself, I don't want to be tolerant on painkillers. I want to feel this pain because once I feel it, I never want to get back in that position. So I had them ordered, but I never picked them up.
Wow.
And I was so proud of myself because there were times I was on the floor shouting to my husband, going, "Take me to A&E. I was crying my eyes out. And he said, "You don't need to go to A&E. You're going to spend hours there waiting. You just need to get through this."
What's
And-
A&E? Is that like emergency
accident,
room?
yeah.
Oh,
Accident
okay.
emergency, like ER.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wanted a quick fix. In that moment, I was like, I need a quick fix, but I knew that that wasn't going to be the solution for me, that I had to go through this to really get out the other end.
So what did you change within yourself? I mean, aside from getting out of loitering.
Well, Georgie gave me that hope. She said, you know, first of all, you need to have hope, and then you need to believe. But you can't believe 50%. You need to believe 100% in your own body. Trust yourself. And a lot of the time, I think we look to external fixes for someone else to fix us. But who's going to fix our mind? Because all those messages are subconscious and we're sending it to the rest of our body. So I started on a plan where I went, right, I need to do something about this. And I started reading a lot of books. There's a great author, Stephen Ozanich, amazing man, The Great Pain Deception, and Howard Schubiner, another great medical expert in America. I emailed both of them in my time of need. And I asked them, I said, what do I do? I'm really fearful. It's lockdown. Stephen was like, well, if thousands have recovered, why can't you? And it's true, because why was I any different? But I felt that I was a bit different, but I wasn't. And then Howard Schubiner said, your neural circuits are misfiring because a pain was traveling around my body. But he said, soothe your nervous system. And I took great reassurance. And I think that's what was needed, reassurance to say, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. There's nothing wrong with you. And I started believing, it took time, but I started believing of, I can't do this, I need some support. And I reached out to a coach, Jeannie Colwyn in America, and she suffered 16 years of chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and she recovered. And I thought, she's recovered, she can help me. And
Yeah, so what you're saying really is that beliefs and mental attitude play an important role in healing.
Yeah, you have to be ready. I think if you're still overwhelmed or not ready for that step, then a talking therapy is going to help, like coaching. Because if you're not ready, you're not going to ready to take that little shift, that small step to take you where you need to get to. Yeah. And I think my biggest why was my children. I wanted to pick them up again. They were young. And I thought, I can't bear to not pick them up or hold their hand again. And I don't want them to see my sorry state lying around, becoming dependent on them. And I think I had to really focus on what is my bigger goal? What is my purpose? And I really focused on that and my emotions as to how am I going to get there? It didn't matter how long it took. And I realized that pain is a protector, is there to help us, but we need to understand what is that pain trying to tell us.
Yeah.
Good.
Go ahead, Trish.
I have a question. Did you look into the Louise Hay book?
I did. I have been recommended that, but I I knew about her, but I thought, I need to read other books that were relevant for me, that I
Right.
thought were like Fred Amir, Stephen Ozenich. I was like, that's the type of one I want to go. But I've heard great things about Louise Hay. And Nicole Sachs was another lady in terms of journaling as well. And I thought, I can read all the books in the world, but I've got to take some action. I've got to start somewhere.
Yeah. I think for people who believe that pills are the remedy, and not your beliefs in your mind, a way of getting them to that point is if they get a placebo and don't know it and feel healed, and then they find out, oh, I was able to, I was feeling better, and it wasn't
belief.
It was in the belief in the pain pill, and it wasn't it was a placebo. You agree with that?
And there's a lot of evidence on that. I remember David Hanscom, talks about that as well, that it's like a sugar pill as well. We've read about that. You can take something and feel really good. Like even, I think if people have this positive mindset about surgery or about injections, they might get that effect as well. But I know with injections, that's temporary relief. Not everybody gets that effect. And it's about what are they changing about their lifestyle? Because it's not just that. But I think people can have faith in a lot of things, prayer to, what people tell them. And I think it's very individualistic. Everyone suffers in different ways. And the problem is they get flare-ups or setbacks, as they call them. And then they wonder, well, why is it happening again? But the brain is very complex and it memorizes pain. And that's really interesting. So I think people who take, my mum, for example, she loves taking a pill. For her, that's a fix. Even if I said to her, Mum, please don't take, you don't need it. But that's their only safety net. And I get that. But it's what is the culture we presented in this world? We've created, here's a pill that will make you better. But in terms of chronic pain, we need to deal with what is the pain that maybe happened in our childhood. It might have been trauma, but we never saw it like that. So how can we help ourselves to really advocate, that the pill is walking, that the pill is actually a bit of meditation. So looking at it from a holistic point of view.
Yeah, that was my next question about the effect of your environment. You mentioned that if you're surrounded by people telling you that you must just accept the circumstances of your life and that you can do little about it, then how does that affect your chances of self-healing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was lucky because I caught Georgie Oldfield at the time when I was suffering, but there's so many millions out there who are suffering in silence. They probably have doctors telling them, you be careful, you need to have this surgery, you need to take this prescription without any other further knowledge because there's no resources available. Or their family members or friends have gone, actually, we had that surgery, it's fine, go ahead with it. How do you discredit that when you know no different? And this is the reason I wrote the book, because people need to know that there are resources that you can recover without surgery and without taking pills. Pills are good for the short term, but long term, there has to be a way just to wean yourself off it. And you need nurtured support. Whichever method for me was coaching, because with coaching, you're not advising what to do. You're empowering them, you're partnering with them to really listen to what they're telling you. How are they feeling? What emotions are coming up for them? Where's it started?
So it really boils down to belief.
Yeah, I really believe it. Well, for me, once I got 100% belief, then the momentum started going. Every day I'd started tracking how I felt. My goals were simple as standing for 3 minutes, sitting for longer, walking for longer. And I did little. And I celebrated by giving myself some dark chocolate. Just a minor thing. Yeah. Because
a little prize.
because we don't celebrate our wins, no matter how small. The people that are getting out of bed, what a struggle that is. Just in and getting changed. And I think nobody's there to champion us, but we need that support.
And you know, something, and let me just preface this by saying this is the disembodied voice of John's opinion that doesn't necessarily represent the views of the mystical underground. But one of the reasons I think this is so important, and you know what we're talking about and what you wrote about is so important, is just that, especially in the West, the modern pharmaceutical, modern pharmaceuticals really are designed just to treat symptoms, not to cure the disease. Well,
yeah, the root cause gets missed completely. And then we're all in this vacuum, all of us. Like I remember having a chat with Dave Clark in America. Again, he advocates saying we need to end chronic pain. You know, we've made it become a thing. Years ago, we never were like that. And now we're all sedentary, probably hybrid working or remotely working. Our mental health is affected even more.
It almost seems like sometimes they create the medicine before the disease or the is known. Like I always remember the one that they were suddenly advertising for people who had this
chronic leg syndrome or something.
Chronic shaking leg syndrome, and nobody ever heard of anybody who had that. But there was this pill for it.
But I understand that people need to make money, and I understand that the medical professionals have their place. Like I always advocate, go and get yourself checked out first. But I remember I went to a neurosurgeon privately because I thought my brain needs a diagnosis. Because sometimes you can have a scan and there's nothing there, but you still feel pain. But nobody believes you. But I wanted this diagnosis, and I had it there and there. A severe centralized disc prolapse right there in front of me. But the funny thing was, because I had enough information and literature to know that two similar scans, one can feel the pain, one doesn't feel the pain. Maybe, actually, I'm okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that, the direction you're going is the way the culture is starting to change and go.
About time.
Self-healing. But yet we are inundated from the pharmaceutical companies. They haven't given up. I mean, you turn on the television, especially around the news channels, they show people who supposedly have all these terrible diseases, and they're all really happy out there on a sailboat singing and dancing, you wonder, where are all these happy people who are taking these pills,
Well, and also you wonder if the people that are happy dancing out on the boat or whatever heard the potential side effects that could be caused by this pharmaceutical. I don't remember the name of the drug. Just in the last couple of days, I saw an ad for a prescription drug, and one of the possible side effects was cancer. And I'm like,
right?
Oh my God!
I know they're
I like the one side effect of death.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
They're required to say the side effects, in those ads, but they don't want to say it. But they try to say it as fast as possible.
And that's the problem, because people aren't aware what the side effects are. How about we give them that knowledge? Like in the UK, so I work alongside some clinical directors called Peak Health Coaching, and we advocate to pharmacists, to doctors, to de-prescribe, to say actually the way forward is coaching, to listen to actually, do you need to prescribe that drug to these chronic pain individuals? There's a place for drugs, and that's for acute injuries, for people who need it in different diseases. But with chronic pain, why are we allowing people to become more tolerant, so dosage gets higher to the point that they're frustrated and depressed? Like I only last week, I set up a pain cafe the last couple of months. It's a monthly thing I do free to give back to the community. And I had a few women come and highly anxious, and they've also thought of suicide. Actually, one attempted suicide, and that's how bad it can get. Chronic pain can lead to your death because the mental state is so severe.
So what guidelines do you give people for changing your belief?
Well, first of all, you've got to be in the right mindset. You really do. If you're not in that right mindset, it's not a case of me convincing you. It's just to say, where are you currently? And then we talk about rewiring the brain. I know people talk about how many days to change a habit, but really, it's all the neuroplasticity we talk about. This brain is very malleable, and it will change if we start allowing it to change. So I'd always say, what's that one little shift, that easy shift you could do right now that will help? It could be, how much time do you have for yourself? I remember in my pain, I neglected myself, my mental health, my emotional health, and my physical health. My kids came first, my family came first, everybody came first. And so I had no time for me. And it was only when I started going, and you know what? I'm going to go for a walk myself with nobody else. I'm going to go to sleep early. Or I'm going to do something for me, that it started to change. It wasn't quite obvious at the start, but it starts to gain momentum if you track it. But you really do got to start from somewhere. If you start saying the language, I can't do that. I've tried it. I can't do it. Then you're right, aren't you? You can't do it because you're not allowing yourself to give you that opportunity. But what is that one thing that motivates you? What's your why? And when you look at people who have suffered pain for years, not been out the house, they can't do their own shopping, been dependent on their family. I want joy back in my life. I want to feel those things that I did when I was younger. And so the things I used to bring into my healing was visualization, neuro-linguistic programming. What did I feel when I was pain-free? How did I feel when I got out of bed? How did I feel when I used to walk? And I used to gain the senses of what I used to see, what I used to feel, what I heard. And I painted a picture in my mind. But not everyone's visual. And I get that. So what other tools have they got that can help them? And I really believe a coach can help that to unlock what's holding them back, what's really causing them to be stuck.
Well, for some people, I think pain is an excuse. So.
Yeah, the victim. And you know what? There's advantages of being a victim. People will do things for you. You know, you'll get the attention. So there's always advantages and disadvantages. But the thing is, if you want to stay in that state, that's fine. But if you're reaching out for support, then you have to become accountable as well. You have to start taking steps.
Do you think it becomes more difficult for people to change if the pain has lasted, say, 10 or 20 years, as opposed to a couple of years?
But that's the belief people have. So people will say, well, I've had it for so long, or I had an injury here, I had a fracture, so that's why it hurts. But we know with fractures, with injuries, they heal within a year. They heal over time, so that fracture won't be there anymore. But I've got people who I've spoken to in the UK. I mentioned it in my book, Lee Vaughan. He had over 30 years of pain. Didn't believe that he would recover. I've got another guy, Sean Jennings, over 30 years, on so many medications. He's on no medications, and he's living his best life. So where people go, no, I've had it for so many years, I can't. It can change because the neuroplasticity in your brain can change. Just like that. People have recovered from chronic pain just by reading Dr. Sarno's book.
Wow.
Yeah.
This kind of leads to the question, what's the difference between pain and suffering?
That's a really good question.
They're almost synonymous, I would think.
Yeah. I mean...
I think you can be, feeling pain, but not really accepting it as being suffering. I don't know.
Well, it depends on the degree of your pain, don't you think?
Pain can cause suffering, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you can have pain, like when I had a broken arm, it's painful, but I didn't feel like I was suffering. I was getting out of things, which is nice.
Yeah. But again, that's acute pain. When you know you've broken something, you're more likely to think, okay, I'm broken, it's fine, it's going to be painful. But with chronic pain, for example, I used to get migraines and I used to think, oh, I didn't think that was chronic pain, which it is. Again, you could say that's not real suffering, but it is for some people. I was debilitated for a whole day, couldn't do anything. Where people say, yeah, I have a bit of pain. That's normal as you're growing older. But it affects your everyday. It affects your performance when you're working. You don't realize, but it can affect you when you're sitting, you're moving around, you have to get up. So there's degrees of how much suffering there is. And I think that, again, that depends on the individual. How much have they suffered previously? Has it been mentally? And has it now trickled into a physical form for them?
Well, see, I think also the culture is to blame. I know it is in the States because, if you're over this age, you need to have these tests and you need to have this and you take this drug. And it's just everywhere,
Yeah.
But
That's the same in the UK as well, because over a certain age, you get your MOT. It's everything, okay, your blood's done, weight checked, and which I advocate for that. But at the point, I'm fearful, I want to make sure I'm okay because we don't know what's happening inside of our bodies. But what we can, and we know if we can make other people aware, is that our subconscious has a lot to answer for. When we're growing up, whose beliefs do we listen to? Our parents, our surroundings. It just becomes part of us unless we break patterns. And the only way we break patterns is by learning to hear our own voice, to go, is that thought actually true? Is that true? But it's what we're told over and over again in our mind.
So you have to find your own truth in that sense.
Yeah.
I think you go to doctor's office and you see the nurse first who takes your blood pressure and she wants to know all the drugs you're on. And they just expect you to give them a long list. And if you tell them you're not on any drugs, they look like something wrong with you. Why aren't you on drugs?
Yes. It's the same in the UK.
Well, and that's something that always strikes me. Well, so just the fact that the first thing they want to do is take your blood pressure, and you're in a doctor's office, you're uncomfortable, you're tense, your blood pressure is not going to be normal. If you're, as long as you're a reasonably normal human being, it's just it's going to be elevated. So.
And maybe
it's called the white coat syndrome, John.
And maybe you've waited for an hour and a half.
Exactly. Plus you may be just pissed off because you got everything you need to be doing. But
and plus you're hungry on top of
Yes.
it. It's true. So did you take any herbs or any herbal remedies?
So I started, I got some turmeric in a tablet as a health span. So I took a few of those and I put lemon in warm water. But apart from that, I did nothing else. I changed the way I was doing things. So I did meditation in the morning. I even listened to Joe Dispenza. I loved his meditations. I put some of those on. And it's weird because I started learning about, we talk about faith and God, but I felt closer to God in a weird way, like this mind-body embodiment that I was quite powerful and I was quite moved with it. And I thought, I can heal from this. I know my why. I know why I need to do this. And I started taking more a relaxed approach in my mind, accepting what it was, allowing the pain to be by my side, to say, you're here for a reason. And when you're ready to leave, you will leave. And I started just doing the things I wanted to do, just little things around the house. But yeah, more than herbs, I think I thought, actually, what else can I do for myself? That is simple. Going for a walk in nature, looking at the trees, taking my kids for a walk. Even though it was painful, and there was pain, but what I realized is the pain for me. I know people say, don't always think psychological, but I did because I knew it was psychological. For me, it wasn't a physical issue because I wasn't harming my body. And there's that myth of, if you walk and it's painful, then you must be harming your body even more. And that's such a myth because I wasn't. And when I got over that hurdle of actually, I need to walk more. My muscles are all weak. I haven't exercised for years, but it's just moving, gentle movement. I started going swimming. And I remember this one time I went swimming, I was limping, and I had to go in the slow lane because I thought, I'm not going to be good at this. And I saw this man in a wheelchair. He had no legs, and he dived in the water.
Wow.
He dived in the water, happy as Larry. And I thought, what have I got to complain about?
God.
Nothing.
Yeah, that
I
kind
was
of puts it in
grateful.
perspective.
He had no legs, and he was swimming away. And I thought, I've got eyes, I've got ears, I can hear, I can see. I'm grateful, God, for making me just have only chronic pain. I mean, come on. I've not got life-threatening disease.
One of the interesting things I read in your book, an idea that I never thought about, is people who are very kind and kind to others, and so kind, helping, being very helpful others, but ignore themselves. They're not kind to themselves and end up with a chronic pain. I hadn't thought of kindness in that sense, but I guess, you got to be kind to yourself as well as others.
I think subconsciously we don't know that lack of self-worth is the real key, is why do you value more people than yourself? That boundary setting. Why do we give in so easily and we say yes so easily? And then when we're in our own ruminating thoughts, that we talk to ourselves in such a bullyish kind of way. We do. And we've got these standards we can't meet. Yet we batter ourselves all the time mentally. Yet we can give everything to someone else, a friend, that we can't give to ourselves.
I think part of that is cultural too. It's, you got to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this to be a good person, and people accept this kind of stuff.
Yeah. But actually, no. Boundary setting is really good for you. You actually gain respect. You gain your own self-worth. What is acceptable to you? And like you said, it depends on your environment. Have you seen your family be this way, where they've always given? My parents have always been ones to always give, be kind. But subconsciously, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be angry. That it will be in your system somewhere, which is where that pain comes in your body.
An example of this that we've all probably seen many times, and it struck me several years ago when I was getting ready to. I was on a plane getting ready. The pre-flight safety tutorial, and so in the event of the cabin decompressing, air mask will drop down. Please affix your mask before you try to help somebody else, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't help anybody else, right?
You'll pass out.
Right.
They say that.
That's a good example.
It's a great example, and that's what it is. Put on your own gas mask. And how often do we not do that? And it's about allowing people to say it's okay to do that. You should do that. But it's so often people are, that people-pleasing tendency comes back in. And it's about recognizing that and to think, actually, I'm worth more than that. I'm a human being and I need that mental space myself. I need to look after my own well-being, because you're no good to anyone.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've noticed particularly about the British culture that makes it more difficult to healing?
I think that here we're trying to change the culture now, but the culture has been, you've got to manage or live with it. You've got to live with it. You've got to live with it and manage it.
Stiff upper lip, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Brits say. Yeah. Okay.
Pull through, push through. But you can't push through this.
Yeah. Or here in America, we're just at each other's throats. So
I know that Dave Clark did a conference recently in Colorado, and they talk about the neuroplasticity and the symptoms, because I'm a member of this organization, Dave Clark. There's a lot of us who are aligned to try and end chronic pain. And I always say, and the reason why I wanted this book out, and I'm so grateful that I met you, Rob, because I tell you what, I was on that journey thinking, oh my gosh, have I got it within me to just release this book as it is? Because I had some bad luck with Hybrid Company, which I shared with you, and I thought, damn it, I'm right there, and I pulled out of the lap. But you gave me so much hope and confidence that I thought this book is just a starting point for people to know there are resources available. You don't have to manage and live with it. You don't have to push through. What you have to recognize is what you're feeling is not your fault. You haven't brought this pain on yourself. It's happened because of your environment. You might have had an adverse childhood experience such as physical abuse, sexual abuse, grief. Your parents have divorced. Could have been any of these things, and you didn't know how to deal with it as a child. And then you've gone in life growing up with these triggers unknowingly to where it comes to a point you've had chronic pain. I mean, I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it more in children are having it as well. It's not just growing pains, it's pain that they're feeling.
You coach kids?
I don't coach kids, but I have been asked about children because it's really interesting because since the pandemic, and I can only speak for myself, even my daughter who's 8 suffers with anxiety a little bit. I can just see it in her traits, but I know there's a lot more anxious, not just children and adults in the workplace, and they're feeling it a lot. I don't know what that rise is due to, but I think there's a lot of factors involved in that.
Here in the United States right now, there's a lot of anxiety about an election. And I suspect that there's going to be some chronic pain coming out of this for one side or the other.
Or both, yeah.
Or both, yeah.
So about your book, I had, when I read it, I had a couple of thoughts. You either don't have self-confidence that this is a good book, or that you just didn't want to let go of it, that you were so into it that, you just felt it, you wanted to keep getting it edited and, reworking it. But, like I said, it was a good book and it was ready to go. It was very
and I think as a first-time author, you don't know. And, I was in that fear mode, that anxious mode again, where I was going, I need a bit more reassurance. I need more than the average person, probably. And when you told me, because I had gone around the house, I thought that was it. That was my final end point where I went, I've got all the proof now.
So
for Rob to tell you that's a plus.
Yeah, I was really grateful.
I'm usually pretty critical. Most people that come to me through this company, Reedsy, that they may have sharpened their pencils, but they haven't written anything yet. Or they have an idea.
Yeah, they have an idea.
Yeah. So.
I want to ask you about this Tony Robbins quote: "The purpose of pain is to move us into action. It's not to make us suffer." What does that mean to you?
That was it resonated with me. It's on my mobile phone as we speak. And I remember action can mean anything, but to me it was like I could stay and wallow in my pain and I can suffer all I want. But action could mean a simple thing of just being grateful, of just doing something for myself. It could be just something. And it resonated with me of thinking, I'm going to look at that every day to help motivate me. And it really did. And we look at quotes to give us inspiration, which is why I wrote a lot of inspiring quotes. But that one jumped at Tony Robbins, the way he is, his power force, his energy. And I thought, if I can just get a bit of that action, a bit of that motivation and energy, I'm going to be on the path to healing. And I looked at it every day.
It's so interesting. The other day at the dog park, we met an Irish woman who has 2 dogs. We started talking to her, and it turns out she moved here because of Tony Robbins. He lives in Palm Beach, and she said he has a community of, people who follow his advice, I guess. And I just thought that was interesting. I mean, I've read a couple of his books, but, he's...
I think it's wherever you grab your inspiration. So I've been in this self-development journey since 2012. and I really enjoy the space around the world of who can I gain inspiration from. And that source of inspiration not only came from quotes, but from books for me, but it can be from so many ways of people that you see. Like when I was recovering, I needed to see people on videos who had recovered. I needed to hear podcasts. I needed to be in a private Facebook group to hear other real people telling me that they recovered, that they knew this journey, that they knew about Dr. Sano. It was like this secret society that not many people want everybody to know. Like,
does Amazon carry that book?
Yes.
They do? Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Trish had mentioned the dog park. There's another woman that comes to the dog park who she's always so bubbly and happy and has so much going on in her life that, you got to feel that she's, really, a very together person. And then I found out one day that she's 83 years old. I thought, what, 83?
And she doesn't look it.
Yeah.
Wow.
She looks like a woman in her 60s, maybe.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I've mentioned that to other people. Do you know that woman is 83 years old? They say, what? It's,
Plus, she's a widow. She recently lost her husband, but she's been able to just...
Yeah, she talks about it.
Maybe that's why she's so happy.
Yeah, right.
It is. I don't know.
Get rid of the pain in the ass.
It's interesting you say that, Rob, because I met this woman a couple of months back while I was food shopping, 85 years old, and she looked in her 60s because she goes, guess what age I am? When she told me, I was like, no way. And she goes, and I said, what's the secret? She goes, having that different mindset. She goes, I have a trampoline at home and I bounce on it every day. And she has this, no walking stick, no pills. And I said, I want a bit of that. She goes, if you want a bit of this, eat well, have a positive mindset, start learning every day, and also either move by walking or get yourself a trampoline. And it's those simple things we forget. We think it's this overcomplicated thing, but it's all the basic things we know about. Sleeping is good for us, nutrition.
But it's interesting you said a trampoline. I'm sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
Before I forget this. Louise Hay, when she was diagnosed with, I think it was vaginal cancer, she knew what it was, why she had it, because she'd been abused as a kid. She had a trampoline, and she would jump on it daily and say, I forgive, and she would go through this whole routine that she describes in her book. So that's interesting you say the trampoline.
Yeah, it's really good for your body, really good, and the blood flow and everything else.
And it is the simple things in life. But where I thought Rob was going with the woman in the park was that she was overcompensating. But where my mind immediately went was social media, which I think is absolutely a source of suffering these days, because people do curate their lives and only present the happy parts. And
especially for younger people.
Sure. Well, and exactly, that's where I was going. And it's really hard for someone that hasn't been out in the world to understand that, no, this is not how life works. Whatever influence you're following, you're only seeing what they want you to see. And half the time it's staged. So don't think that this is, but that unrealistic expectations and just none of this is getting away from physical pain, but it's chronic mental fatigue, if nothing else. Just that, how do I live up to this? Well, it's unrealistic to begin with. Anyways,
and you're right on that, because digital obsession, and I mentioned that in the book because I was with a private Facebook group. I had gone off Facebook actually, but I only went on there for my private. I use it for marketing a little bit now for my pain cafe, but I'm very mindful of how much time I spend on it, because if you're not careful, you can spiral. Instagram now, it's scrolling. How much time are we dedicating on these apps that we see all the time? Yeah. But for me, I used it as a source of, okay, I want to be in a group where it's positive, but I set a limit how long I'm on there, then get off. Because people, when you're in chronic pain, you want to see other stories online. What can I grab now? And if they're negative, or they're not serving you, it could even just exacerbate your pain. So what's the point of that? And then you're not sleeping well. You have these thoughts. And like you said, what it's presented is not the truth. This glam lifestyle, this, hey, look how successful we are. That's not the reality.
Yeah. Narinder, can you talk a little bit about your clientele,
Pain Cafe?
Like the people who are coming to you, what are they telling you? Is it do they talk mostly about physical pain or the anxiety, or what are you hearing from people?
Interestingly, it's nothing to do with the physical pain. It's everything around it. Everything. So childhood, a lot of it, childhood. A lot of it is time pressure. So if they're mothers, just time is a big thing. I've got one who's a young lady at university, actually, but she's got issues. It was facial pain, chronic pain. So she's never lived away from her family before. It's a big thing. She's an introvert. I've got other ladies who've got neurodiverse traits whilst also suffering fibromyalgia. But again, they've had toxic family issues or they've suffered trauma. So all these stories, they're so complex. I remember a few months ago, I was coaching a lady in New York, and she had a whole host of problems from being neurodiverse, from being this really, on the face of it, a director, someone you'd think is assertive with a global brand. But she said she was indecisive. She couldn't leave the house because of her fibromyalgia. And, she had other issues, even more complex, being part of the LGBTQ community. That again presented it. So what I'm seeing is this diversity and inclusion. People feeling they don't belong. Where are they fitting in? So it's not about physical pain, but once they start to recognize and sharing their thoughts, all I'm doing is listening and allowing them to see what do they want out of a session. It's not a case of here are all the tools and let me present them. It might not be that that's what they need. What they need is something that's tangible for them, that they know they will work on. I mean, my first client, I did a workshop last year, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I thought, I'm going to get a slide deck together, and I'm just going to tell my story as I see it and what I've learned. I presented it to her, and she goes, Narinder, in all the 12 years I've had chronic back pain, that's the first time I truly feel that you know my story, that I've resonated. And she became my paying client, and she's over 70% pain-free. She is doing the things that she held herself back from. Going to the cinema by herself, running a bath, not caring about the time she was cooking dinner for her children, and knowing that the pain was releasing.
Well, was it back pain for her?
Yeah, back pain.
So do you work with individual clients through Zoom or?
Yeah, online, or even face-to-face locally in the UK, but online if they're global, they're in different countries. But I'm finding also the work I'm doing at the Pain Cafe when I'm getting a group of people, my story is only one story. And actually, it's not about my story. It's about their stories together, collectively. How can I do more to help them? And what I do each month is I try and think of a theme that might resonate with them, be it breath work, be it meditation, be it nutrition. But there's so many things we can help each other in our struggles, rather than just sitting there listening to my voice. It's everyone's voices count.
What do you find? Okay, if you work from people from different countries, do you find culturally that there are different issues?
Yeah, definitely there are going to be different issues. I come from an Indian community, even though I was born in England. My parents and some of the wider family, they're from India. So their viewpoints are different, and they could, I know in different cultures abroad, The doctors are seen like the demigod. They're the ones you go to. They probably have an hour to spend with them. They have faith in them. They probably see the same doctor. In the UK, unfortunately, we don't see the same doctor. You have a 10 or 15-minute time span, which is nothing. That's nothing. What can you do with that? Which is where the doctors have to now signpost. But what we're trying to advocate is those doctors can ask a simple question. What are you doing right now to help yourself with your health?
That's fascinating. I had one orthopedic surgeon say to me, Trish, the most powerful thing is the mind-body connection. It blew me away. You don't normally hear that kind of talk from medical people here. You know, it's like, take this drug, take this drug.
And it's not their fault because they've been taught a biomedical model. That's it. They've been taught this way. But because the science, the evidence is unanimous now across the globe, you will see in Australia as well. You'll hear it. I don't know where you heard of this gentleman, Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, but he does a lot of interviews with health experts around the world. And the science is that the evidence is proving that actually there is more that we can do. Holistic approaches is the way forward if we can advocate collaboratively and say, actually, there is another way out.
What was his name?
Dr. Rangan, Rangan, Chatterjee, Chatterjee.
Okay.
Yeah, and just real quick to follow up on that, because certainly in my neck of the woods here in the U.S., this is a relatively recent thing. I actually grew up seeing the same doctor for 28 years. He was my pediatrician, and then went into general practice and became my general practitioner. And I saw a change in him, where it was retrieve the data from the patient, and not talking to me, just like we were talking about earlier, blood pressure, run all the tests, and then what does the Chilton's manual say? and I know this doctor didn't practice medicine that way for the first, like I said, 28 years of my life.
So what changed?
The need to turn patients around quickly. I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher your name if I try to say it. Nandria? Narinder. Okay, I'm sorry. But like Narinder said, rather than going in and spending an hour with the doctor, it was okay. Now the 15-minute, gotta turn the patients around quickly. So just get the data and we'll crunch the numbers, and then here's your prescription. Go get well.
And
we're not actually practicing medicine anymore. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what motivated you to write your book?
For pain.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I'd already written parts of my diary as part of the book. So I was doing a chronic pain track, and every day I'd date it and I'd do a little goal for myself, put my emotions there and what reward I'd give myself. And I was inspired by Fred Amir. His book is, I think it was neck and back pain recovery. And he used to diary it every day, and he'd met Dr. Sana. And I thought, that's the way I want to learn. I want to track it. I want to track my emotions. And I knew there were going to be days that were Groundhog Day, that were going to be difficult. But I thought, if I can write this, I promised myself, I want to give back. And the bigger the impact, the better, because I can reach more people. And so that desire to write the book was, I've got to get this out there. I've got to do it right now. And it was nerve-wracking. But I found a space, a community of authors at that point where I thought, do you know what? This is going to be where I need to be, like write every day for an hour. It doesn't have to be a big, thick book. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. But why not share what I learned? Because that might help someone else. And so I got motivated by when I started talking to other people about my pain journey, started to inspire them. They started to learn more about it and find ways to help themselves. And I thought, instead of keep speaking about it, writing it down, I can give them out as a resource. I can say, find my book. And I'm so glad I went food shopping today, actually. And the woman at the checkout has pain, and she read my book, and she said, Narinder, thank you for your book. It inspires me. It inspires me. And I thought that's the reason I wrote the book, so that people that I don't even know who it reaches finds it.
How often do you hold the pain clinic or the
I do it monthly, so I do it every month. And I've been holding it since a couple of months now. And I found it so rewarding because I think I learned so much more to hear the stories. Because what started off where I initially thought it's just about chronic pain, it's more than that. Women are suffering from menopause, the pain there, pain from hysterectomies to endometriosis to a whole host of chronic conditions, arthritis. Then you've got the anxiety, you've got the depression. So actually pain is universal, but actually they're coming in a safe space to just talk things out.
Well, tell us tell people how they can get in touch with you, go to your pain cafe.
Definitely,
your book.
Yeah, well, my book's on Amazon and it's on Kindle as well. They can see the Pain Cafe. I promote that on my Facebook, my LinkedIn, and my Instagram. Probably not as much as I need to be. And I think
you have a website?
I have a website. It's www.mapcoach.co.uk. So they can get in touch with me on there as well, and happily share what they need to learn or what they need inspiration from. I'm always happy to lend an ear because I also do half-an-hour complimentary sessions over Zoom as well if they can't meet me in person. So that's free of charge, and they can tell me what they're suffering from, and I can see whether it's something I can help them with.
That's great. Then you recommend that they come to the Pain Cafe?
If they want to come here locally, but eventually I want the Pain Cafe to be an online thing so that I can reach obviously a global crowd, that we can have more people listening in, because that's only a small community, but we need to get the communities together to start helping them.
Yeah, I had an online Pain Cafe. Then you'd have a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. I have one final question. So people, as they get into their 70s and beyond, it's almost universal that you hear about it, arthritis. So is this something that's partly involved with mind and beliefs, or is it just the body breaking down? Yeah,
most definitely, because we're led to believe, the doctor said we've got arthritis on the spine. It's because we're getting older. It's fact, when we get older, we are going to have some aches and pains. But what are we doing to help ourselves? Are we moving like we used to? If we look at evolution, our bodies were made for moving, not sitting at a desk, not being sedentary. But I heard stories of people. I remember this interesting story. This guy said to me, I was told by a doctor that I had arthritis in my hands, and he was in his early 20s. But he didn't listen to the doctor. He didn't listen. And he goes, the pain went. The pain went away. And I hear this so often where there's arthritis, or you hear there's arthritis in the hip. But I hear it from youngsters. Oh yeah, because I was playing cricket, that's why it's happened. But it's because the brain needs logic. It feels like if we can connect it to something we've done physically or not, then it makes sense. But actually, if we applied the same scenario of actually, so what if you see people doing marathons at 100 years old, you see other people who are overweight and sitting and they don't have back pain. So it's nothing to do with always lack of movement or what is happening. What are we doing to help ourselves?
Wow, this is fascinating.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This has been really great.
Yeah.
And just real quick before we sign off, I have not done a random music fact in a while. So, Narinder, are you a Duran Duran fan at all? Because Duran Duran is one of my 3 favorite bands. I have a big 3.
Wow.
Duran Duran is one of them.
Wow.
Originated in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Or Birmingham, England, at the Rum Runner. I think that the building still exists. I don't know that it's called the Rum Runner anymore. But also just random fact, I live a little over an hour away from, we call it Birmingham, Alabama. So yeah. So I'm not far away from Birmingham either. So
Brilliant. Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's great.
Excellent.
Well,
right.
this has been so fascinating. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm so appreciative for all your help. It's, if we can send this message far and wide to help support other people.
Now, John, when does this episode go up?
Yeah, I'd have to do the math. It's either 2 weeks. It's 2 or 3 weeks from today. I'm not sure where Star Power falls, but yeah, within the next 3 weeks for
Okay.
sure. But yep. So I think that's right. Yeah.
We'd be lost without John. That's why we
Oh
call
my
him our
God,
tech
this is
wizard.
brilliant. I need to set up my own podcast and bring John with me. I'm like, John, help me.
I work pretty cheap, so let me.
Yeah.
All right.
He also has a full-time job, so it's like,
Passion project. No,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's been so wonderful.
Thank you.
it's been great.
Okay,
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care of
Okay.
yourselves. Bye.
You too.